Welcome to the Selling Education podcast. And today I'm joined by the fabulous Brendan Schneider, one of the leading experts in independent school marketing. He is the founder of SchneiderB Media, a digital marketing agency that helps schools move from kind of the best kept secret to the first choice destination. And he's been in the trenches himself, starting out in school admissions and marketing before pioneering inbound marketing into the education space. And he's now an author, best-selling author, I believe, a speaker, and the creator of School Marketing CRM, sharing really practical ways that schools can attract and convert more families without worrying about outdated advertising. We talk about what's really working in school marketing today and the common traps that schools fall into. I know he's got some brilliant gems and a system that you can borrow. So thank you very much for joining me, Brendan. How are you doing?
I'm great, Nicola. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. I know you've got such energy. And when we met before, I just thought, yes, you've got to come on. So I think first things first, do you want to tell us what those things on your shelf are behind you? So for people listening in, there's some fantastic building models on the shelf behind you. What's going on there?
It's Nicola, it's Legos. So what they
Wow.
are, I wish I had a great answer for you. My son has always loved Legos. And if people that are listening have children know, the Legos just get bigger and more expensive. And then the problem is you don't know where to put them. So,
Yeah.
so we have bookcases, and if you're not watching, we just put the Lego buildings, I don't even know what they are, on top of the bookcases. And there's more. And then I have over here, he did a Lego roller coaster that's
Oh.
they're fabulous. He loves them, and he's at university now, and he still likes to build occasionally. And we just have to find places to store them.
Yeah. So you get left carrying them. I think we've all got that. Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for explaining. We did want to know. Right. So
Thank you.
on to a couple of questions that I know people are going to want to know. So generally speaking, start off general, get in to the nitty-gritty in a minute. And not just in our sector. What's the biggest shift you've seen in marketing, and what do you think the next big thing will be?
Oh, it's such a big question. It's a
I
great
know, it's
question.
massive. Sorry.
The biggest thing I've seen is, generally speaking, then I can maybe talk about schools, which isn't so positive, is obviously the digital, right? The shift to digital,
Mm.
moving away from what are like traditional or outbound marketing methods to digital methods where you kind of get a better ROI. You can measure a little easier. Sometimes it's still difficult, but that's the biggest shift. The biggest shift that's happening now is AI,
Yeah.
and where that supplements, replaces, affects, thinking about one of the things we do for schools now is SEO. So it's not only just showing up on Google, it's showing up in the LLMs, in the models, Perplexity or ChatGPT. Um, and then one thing I've seen in schools in particular that isn't super positive is just
Mm.
they're not they're not doing what they need to do in terms of marketing.
Okay.
And I don't think, and I don't throw stones at the people doing the work because they're working really hard. I throw it more at the institution. Um, Lack of budget, lack of resources, lack of staff. So I think schools are behind in that, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to fight against.
Okay, and that's your hill to die on, as they
Yeah, it
say.
is.
Why do you think, just as an aside, why do you think there isn't enough? Is it because marketing is such an expensive thing to do and you don't know which half works and
Yeah.
things? Why isn't budget allocated to marketing? Is it just there's no budget, or is it
Wow,
not valued?
yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Here's what I would say. I think, and I haven't, this isn't fully baked, but it'll be fun to talk about. I think it comes from the fact that top administrators, heads of school in the U.S., I don't know if you call it principal or head of school in the U.K. Um, a lot of what I see is that those folks still come up the academic side of the house. They were head teachers, they were directors of teaching and learning. They weren't focused on the external. And I don't think they understand. And the two things I see is they think that, and I'm this is a gross generalization, but they think that anybody can do marketing. Give the 22-year-old the social media accounts and it'll be fine, which we know isn't true. Well, in some cases it could be. but it's not a great strategy. And then they don't understand the amount of money that you need to spend to do it correctly. And I also think there's a bigger shift that a lot of schools, um, like they just kids came, they were more gatekeepers. They had more applications than seats available. And that has, over the last, I'd say, decade or two, that's shifted quite a bit. And the majority of schools, and I'm just speaking in the US, are really working hard for kids and working hard for kids all year round. So I think, so obviously, I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a bunch of things that's, causing this problem.
Mm. And I think it's very similar here in the UK and actually in Australia and New Zealand, where I've spent some time with some schools that the academic staff come up and they have such a passion for education, such a passion for the school, but that's not quite enough. It's not professionalized enough. And like you said, and actually in my part, the sales part, they think, oh, anyone can sell. You just need a bit of gift of the gab, that'll be all right. And it's so much more than that. And even, other professionals that don't necessarily think that there is a process and data and techniques and all of the other stuff that's involved. Sales is a profession. You can't just be charming, although that is very nice. But introverts are great at sales too. And in fact, what about for marketing? Do you think there's a personality type for the best school
It
marketing?
it's so funny. I just want to dovetail on what you said. That's why we get on so well, is because I couldn't agree more about admissions and selling. And I think, marketing for a long time was a dirty word at schools. I'm talking back maybe 2 or 3 decades.
Mm,
People have accepted it now. I think that selling word in schools is almost, it freaks people out. And like, there's nothing wrong with it. And I always used to say, like, I'm selling the best thing possible,
mm.
like a solution for your child. Like, anyways, that we could talk about that. But to answer your question, I don't know if there's a type, although I have seen, and I'm one of these, and a lot of people that I talk to, their school marketers, I find that people pleasers end up in marketing.
Mm.
And a lot of, at least school marketing, and a lot of those folks, they're people pleasers that are able to get stuff done. And that can create a lot of tension because we don't say no a lot. Again, generalizing here,
Yeah.
but we don't say no a lot, and that can be problematic just for like your mental health and trying to get things done.
Yeah, and setting boundaries for the work that you do. And there are so many voices that have opinions on marketing in education, I think, and in sales actually, but mainly in the marketing side, that everyone has an opinion on it. And so you're trying to please everybody. That must be exhausting. I wonder if actually anyone listening, if you believe you are a people pleaser, or in fact, if you believe you are not a people pleaser, do let us know. That would be
Yeah.
a great poll to have. Okay.
I I would love to know. Yeah, that's a great. Thank you.
Let's find out. No, I love that. Okay. Because I think for the marketeers that I know that are really good and they get stuff done for sure, and they can juggle
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
balls, plates in the air for sure. But they're the really good ones are very data driven and actually slightly removed from that passion and everything that we generally place people with that passion and things
Yeah.
into those roles. But they're very data driven, process driven, evidence driven. Would you say those are useful traits for that role?
1000%. The thing that I've seen in schools, though, is that it goes back to that being under resourced, and
Mm,
whether that's budget or people or whatever. So, a lot of schools in the US, you have one person doing marketing and communications at a school.
yeah.
So, what that means is that, and again, I have this theory, it's actually a chapter in my book. Schools are terrible at hiring marketers. What they do is they hire communications people, which are equally important, all good, but they hire comms people. And again, most schools don't understand the difference. But they hire comms people, and then the marketing gets pushed aside. It's not that they can't necessarily do it, but like, this is another trait of schools. We're great at piling things on top of folks without removing things.
Mm,
So you have this one person in the Marcom role. It's typically a woman. They think it's superwoman. And then they also throw on like cafeteria duty or bus duty at the end of the day. So it's survival mode. So to where we started, I think those traits that you talked about absolutely are important. And I see that a lot. But sometimes they can't just get their head above water to do that work.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to a school earlier. They actually have tons of inquiries. Their problem is qualifying the inquiries and having time to almost
Yeah.
score them. But they were saying that their team, there's several on their team, admissions team, but they're doing tours all the time for these inquiries. And each tour is two to 3 hours because it's a big
Wow.
campus. They don't have time to do any of the stuff that I would ideally want them to do, like the follow-up piece, for example. They don't have time to get their heads above water.
Yeah.
They can't afford to leave, they're not at capacity. They can't afford to leave leads or inquiries. And yet, if they're following everything up in the same way, it's just
Yeah.
exhausting,
Yeah.
really. And so the old way, and I agree with you, so it's no longer a case of, beating them away with a stick. That we're welcoming people in now. We're generally not at capacity, only a few are. And so the old ways just aren't, it's just not that reality anymore. The old ways just aren't working. So you were one of the first to bring inbound marketing into the
Yeah.
school space, which is something I'm much more used to in a different part of my life, but that inbound marketing piece. So what was the kind of light bulb moment where you thought, oh, we should be doing inbound? What happened?
Yeah, there's actually a story, and I'll make it very short. But this goes back to my first year at my previous school. So this would have been back in 2008, 9. Was the first year director of admission and financial aid. And then if we remember back to that time, I still have PTSD. It's the Great Recession, and we were at the beginning of that. And what happened was is our interest indicators, our inquiries, our applications, and our visits were about a 1 month trailing average to the market. Everybody on campus freaked out. What are we going to do? We initially ran to what, traditional outbound interruption marketing methods. And then those didn't work, super expensive, and most importantly, didn't affect our interest indicators. And then it's kind of cheesy, but I read the inbound marketing book by Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah, the founders of HubSpot. Excellent book. I read that and I literally, Nicola, was like, "Oh, we have to do this." Yeah.
How exciting.
And that's really how my blog started. This is kind of embarrassing now, is I thought because I have no formal marketing training. Like it's all self-taught and it's more like vested interest. I need to figure this out.
Mm,
I started my blog, SchneiderB.com, because I thought, okay, we have to use these techniques. I'm going to do it under I'm using air quotes here, own name. So if I screw anything up, it'll be under my name and not school.
right.
So I'm doing it on my blog. Things are working. We're bringing them to school. We're implementing, having success. And then, people read the blog because that's what those techniques do. And for us, it was just, when you have success, you just want more, right? So you keep going. The other thing we realized later, and why I was such a big fan of inbound, is because, and again, this isn't my idea, but the with the advent of the internet, the power structure between the parent and the school has changed. Meaning, um, back in the, I don't know, pre-internet days, the school held all the power, right? You had to call the school to get the information. You had to at the forward thinking schools, you couldn't even fill out things online, right? Because there wasn't online. So you'd have to call or you'd have to visit. They would send, we would send the admission packet and spend all that money. But with the internet, people don't have to call school anymore. They can go to the review sites. They can do research online. And then at the end of that process, they can decide, oh, you're worthy to market to us now. So we'll fill out the inquiry form. And the scary thing when we were going through that process and kind of figuring all that out was that those parents are making those decisions without us having a voice in that conversation. And that's when you go, oh, darn. we,
Oops.
we need, yeah, we need to figure this out. And then, we don't have to go into the nitty gritty of inbound, but it's creating content so that is out there for parents. So
Mm.
that's kind of the long story to how we got there.
Oh, how exciting. And do you think most schools are still relying on old methods like the glossy brochures and a bit of word of mouth? They're still relying on that almost archaic way of marketing? Or do you think like vinyl, those ways are actually having a comeback because of the plethora of information on social media, for example, is
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Again, gross generalization. Schools have gotten better about it for sure, but um, I still think too many kind of resort to those old methods. And the problem I see is it's sometimes it's just again lack of resources, lack of knowledge. You can't sub it out, so we're trying to figure it. But I kind of joke that sometimes the school marketing plan for the year um, is insane, meaning the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So like this is the year the billboard's going to work, and it's like no. Now, I say that some schools, I believe all marketing is local, all marketing, if the billboard works for you and you can track it and figure it out, God bless you. That's fantastic. But in most cases, and we had tested billboards back in that 2008, 2009 story. It was a huge dud for us, but and we learned the hard way, spent thousands of dollars, but that's another story.
And it's hard to track the old methods. I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of your digital and your inbound lead generation is that you can track the effectiveness of most of it. You can't with other things.
It's almost impossible. And I actually did this once just to experiment. We had open house, open day. So we let people come and we asked when they were registering, how did you hear about us? We put on the form a radio ad. Nicola, we had a lot of people click radio ad. We
Ah,
never ran a radio ad. Right? So it told us a lot of things. People don't know.
yeah.
And they, and again, I think about my own consumption of things. You don't know where you heard about it. And then I also realized that the data we were getting, you got to take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But the digital, it's not super easy, but it's much easier to draw that line back from a conversion to a digital marketing effort,
Mm.
which is gold.
And I think the other media, the media that we can't track, so print, billboards, roundabouts, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they catch my eye. I was coming off the train the other day, and there was an ad for a prep school, and I won't mention the name of the school, but I remember the school and I remember the image on it. And so you might then go away and then go online and then click on a form on Instagram, for example. But the first trigger might have been something else, or when you do get a communication from them, it's going to remind you. So I think all of it is valuable, but not all of it is trackable, is maybe the,
Yeah, and for some of those, I would consider those kind of top of the funnel methods.
yeah.
I think some of those techniques can still be effective, but I think it's problematic for schools because we don't have the budget because you need a lot of budget and you have to show up all the time, and
Mm,
that's where it's tricky for schools.
mm.
Um, that like having those placards up or the ad that you saw, uh, you got to have them all over, and you got to have them up all the time. And again, schools have limited budgets.
Yeah, that's true. So if they could start doing one thing, not necessarily one media, but if they could start doing one thing to improve their results marketing wise, what do
Yeah.
you think what would
The
make
one that I get on my soapbox about is doing SEO, doing search engine optimization,
okay?
because this is, and I go to data. Um, we talk about social media all the time, and I'm not saying it's not important. But if you look at traffic to your website, so go to your GA4 account, so Google Analytics 4, and look at the traffic reports. I'm trying to remember traffic acquisition. The vast majority of that traffic acquisition is going to come from what's called organic search. Now, we won't get into the AI piece, but it's organic search. And that's what SEO can affect. And schools aren't doing it at all. And if you can't, and I realize I'm saying this as a consultant, but if you can't do it internally, hire somebody. You
Mm,
need to do SEO. And in the way, if people really aren't sure how to think about it, is, if you go to Google, so here's a test to try. Go to Google, go to an incognito window. So if people don't know what to do, click the three dots on the top right and go incognito. That means that Google doesn't know who you are, which is important. Type in what you think is your most important keyword.
Okay.
Private school in London. And maybe that's too broad, but do that and then see where your school shows up. If they're showing up on the first page, that's great. If they're showing up in the top 3 for that search, that's gold star. But then I know our first word, we don't have to go into it, but we showed up on page 3. And I was like
Wow.
ready to cry when we first started this process. Search engine optimization is taking that page 3 result and moving it up to page 1. And the
Mm,
thing you have to understand is that's for one keyword. You
right.
might focus on 20 or 30, start small, but that's to answer your question, SEO. I really hope schools, it's not difficult, but it's not super easy. You might need external help, but please focus on SEO.
Do you need to do it often? I mean, how often would you look at that? Is this like a daily exercise, monthly, quarterly? How often do you need to?
Yeah, the struggle with SEO is that there's no finish line. You're never there, right? Which and again, as a consultant who sells it, I'm aware of that. I'm not trying to, but do research. Don't just take my word for it. And you constantly have to fight for those rankings. Um, and I think you should work it into. Look, if you're not doing anything right now, which I get, because you have a lot of demands, um, do it. Set aside 30 minutes a week,
Mm,
set aside an hour a week, and just start doing some work. Yeah.
good stuff. Okay. And then um, in terms of data to track, what data there should they track and what data generally should admissions teams be tracking, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. The, the one thing is I would say is start to go into your Google Analytics.
Okay.
Most schools don't, and that's okay. Because I want people to understand when I was doing this work, I'm not throwing a stone for a glass house, right? Like I used to screw this up. I didn't have time to do it. I'm just telling you from my experience, I made these mistakes. Don't make these
Mm,
mistakes. Go into Google Analytics. And Nicola, I used to have to schedule time. And my assistant knew not to, I would schedule like an hour every 2 weeks. And my assistant knew that was, and she'd make sure I was there doing it. Like that we got along and we're still friends. But she was like, you got to do it, I got to do it. And she knew. So go into Google Analytics and just start to get a sense of keyword rankings, what traffic is driving, where you're getting referral traffic, what's driving traffic to your site. And then there's something in Google Analytics. They used to be called goals. They're now called key events.
mhm.
You have to set these up. You can just YouTube, do a search, set up some key events on your site. The most important is probably fill out the inquiry form or sign up for a tour.
Mhm.
But then whatever those key events are that are going to lead to admissions and sales, and then start to track those key events. And then you can figure out, it gets pretty interesting. You can figure out somebody that did that key event, they triggered that. You can follow their path where they went on your website.
Yeah.
I'm getting down the rabbit hole now, but start with what I said at the beginning, and then you'll be much better off.
Okay. And in terms of, so that's for your SEO. Is there any other data they should be tracking? So should obviously website visits and source, anything. So from obviously from the sales
Yeah,
perspective, I deal with it once the inquiry has landed, and then how we get through the sales conversion pipeline. So you must need that as well, I'm assuming, that
yeah.
to
I was
see
just going to say that.
right. Or is there
Yeah,
anything else that should be tracked, or have we covered all of it?
no, I mean, I think if they're not tracking anything, if they do that work, and then I hope that they're doing what you just mentioned, which is inquiries, and then whatever your process is it inquiry to a tour, then tour to an app, then app to accept, and then accept to enroll. Like you've got to have that funnel, that pipeline, whatever term you use, and you need to track that
Mhm.
conversion rate. So if you haven't done it, start it this year. And I find the gold is in the trends year over year,
Mm,
right? So that you can see, hey, I'm just making these numbers up, Nicola, but like the inquiry to acceptance or the inquiry to enrollment, which is the bottom, we might need 15 inquiries to an enrolled student.
Hmm.
And then you can start to extrapolate and work backwards and figure that stuff out. And that's
Hmm.
really helpful. And then we would track that data year over year to see where we were and to see how we were trending. And then, we would meet frequently to say, oh, we need to pivot now. Like this is not looking good,
Hmm.
rather than waiting for the whole cycle to be done and going, oh, there's nothing we could do. No, no, no. Keep tracking it so that you can move on the fly.
Yeah, it's quite retrospective usually, isn't it? This is what happened, but actually you need to start to be able to work in the predictability. And maybe it's because you can't do anything with the data until maybe a year or two or three down the line. So you just think, you know what, I've got other stuff to do now. I'm just going to go
Yeah.
and do that. But actually, your future self will thank you, and as will the school. And do you believe, so I'm a firm believer, I'm going to lead you this because I'm a firm believer that the principal, the head teacher, should also have eyes on this data. Do you agree? Like the owners of the school or the principals of the school, not all of the data, but top line data.
Yes.
I believe so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So again, I think it's twofold, and then I'll tell you a quick story. If the person came up, if the head teacher, head of school came up from the academic side of the house, um, she needs to know what this is, right? She needs to know. If she came up and she was an external fundraiser, admissions, marketing, whatever, she'll have a better sense and can offer opinions and be able to know. But I also think it's good for them to know because the board's going to ask them.
Mm.
They need to know. I also think they need to know because the head of school is really the chief storyteller. Like she needs to know what's going on and she needs to be able to tell those stories. Um, the story I have for you is that we were functioning at our best at my previous school when we had it was weekly during the season, then it would go to every other week. We had head of school. I was director of admission, my assistant director, the director of advancement. So in the US, that's like the chief fundraiser.
Okay.
And then at that time, there were two marketing folks. So it was that six of us. We would meet and talk about these issues and work through problems and talk. I mean, that's when we were at our highest functioning. And that was really
Mm.
fantastic
Mm.
because they also took ownership for the numbers. It wasn't like, hey, Brendan, what are you going to do? It,
Yeah.
it wasn't that at all. We were all invested in improving that process because we knew it was the lifeblood of the school.
And I love that that happened. So for anyone listening that would like that to happen, that doesn't know how to kind of get them on side or help them see the value, have you got any tips? Did you have to convince these people to come in the meeting with you, or were they all for it? And if people
To,
aren't all for it, what can we do to get them involved and
yeah,
help them?
one of the things. Yeah, it's a good question, Nicola. I would say that happened because I had a head of school who believed in it, and he he made it known to everybody. So that was really helpful. I was really fortunate and lucky that way. One of the things I did too that might be helpful is that when I got that inbound marketing book and had that light bulb moment, I bought a copy for him to read. I don't think he read it all. He read enough of it because I said, "This is what I want to do." He goes, "I got the general sense, go." And I was like, "Yes, sir." It was great. And then I think once we got in that meeting, because the meeting didn't start out that way, kind of had a different charge at the beginning, but then it got to that place, and then everybody could feel the positive work. And even when there was bad news, because it's not always good news, it spread across six folks, and we're all brainstorming ways that we can remedy it or come up with new things to try. But I would say, share the book, get the book, share the book. And really, you have to win your head over. Your head has to be invested in this.
Do you have anything? I haven't read the book yet, admittedly, but do you have anything in there that talks about how to get your head on side? I think you
I
need training
have,
for heads to
so
get on side.
in my own book, which is, I think it's there. Yeah. School Marketing the Right Way. So in my own book, I have a chapter in there called Bringing a Marketing. I can't remember the title. It's so embarrassing, but it's about bringing a marketing culture to your school. It's really hard. I'm not going to lie. Like
Mhm.
it's hard. And I started off with a story about how we, um, everybody at school is a marketer, whether they think they are or not.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily doing the work, like the work that you and I do, Nicola, but you know, conversations with parents that when they see a prospective or a current parent in the grocery store, they're marketers. They're
Mm.
selling um, to get people to understand that. So I think going through that and we kind of give a framework and talk about it. Um, but it's hard. It's hard and it takes time. I think the biggest thing is uh, shameless plug. Get the book, read it, and give it to the head of school and read it and talk about it because you really need the head on board. And again, I was super fortunate that my head of school would get up in front of the faculty and say this is a priority. And there were a lot of things that also helped. Like one of the things that we did that was not related but related is I think it was January every year, maybe February. We would do a state of the school. So the
Mm.
head of school, the CFO, some other key administrators would get up and say what's going on. And that wasn't all unicorns and rainbows. But I think the faculty then felt empowered to know here's what's going on. And at least in the US, the way things are funded, there was no government money, so we needed kids, right? Most
Mm.
schools are tuition driven, and that includes retention. So we got to all be pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry if that's not super concrete, but it'll at least get you started.
No, I don't think that it's just any tools that we can have. And
Yeah.
and in your shamelessly plugged book, which I'm all for, what is your framework? So you have a framework for attracting and converting families, and you've obviously
Yeah.
used this framework with hundreds of schools now that you worked with. So what are the common traits, or which are the bits that they adopt that really have an impact that on the schools that are thriving that you've worked with? Which bits do they really cling on to that have made an impact out of that framework? Or maybe you want to explain in basic what the framework is. Yeah,
Yeah.
game away.
Well, I don't, there's not necessarily one overarching framework. There are little things for different aspects of marketing at a school. The one that, if people want to make the biggest impact, it's probably related to retention and
Mm.
being intentional and mindful about doing this work. Meaning, I used to walk around school. My team got sick of me, but I would say, it's easier to re-enroll a student than enroll a student.
Yeah.
And trying to keep those students is super important. The struggle that I had or I felt was that as the admission director, I was kind of, again, air quotes here, responsible for that retention number, but I had no agency over it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in
Not
the
anyone else.
classroom, or I'm not in the classroom. I'm not coaching. I'm not their advisor. I'm not doing college guidance. It's all those lived experiences. I'm not in the cafeteria serving them food because everything matters. So the real quick one was we had a retention committee and we started now, like, right. And what we did was I would send an email to, this goes back to sales, Nicholas. I'd send an email to the entire student body. I'm sorry, not student body, faculty staff. Sorry, faculty staff. If you get wind of any child that might be leaving, anything, even if it's out of left field, email me back.
Mm.
So they would email back. We'd put the child, the division, the grade. This was when I was pre-K through 12 day school. The person who sent it, and then we'd compile that list. Here's another key. I talked to the women in the cafeteria all the time. Nicola, they know everything.
That's
They know everything. And
that's
and
lovely. I love
she
that.
was still a friend today. She knew everything. And so she would give us feedback and the kids would talk. So, anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we would put that on a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet, go into our conference room, and we had the people that did have agency over that work. The head of school was there, our three division heads. I was there. We had the CFO. So you thinking about is that the bursar, right? So paying
Mm.
bills, tuition. We did have our director of advancement there, so the chief fundraiser. And director of support services. So if a child was struggling academically, we would go down that list. Some of them would be surprises, some of them wouldn't be surprises. And then we would think about the person either in that room or outside of that room that would make the best connection with the family. We started early. and we would start meeting super frequently right after the first of the year to try to mitigate as many kids as possible from leaving. I mean, some are going to leave and maybe they weren't the right fit. Some are leaving because they're moving. And we would just say, and we actually had this happen. We said, we're so bummed out that you're moving. Where are you going? This is a small world. Can we help? And then we actually, a couple years later, so I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That family moved to San Francisco, the Bay Area. We had a family come from the Bay Area to Pittsburgh and they enrolled at our school because that family that left us talked to them. And I was like, I'm done. This was perfect. And they were a great family. It was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful. Now, look, that's not always going to happen, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So, but I focus on if focus on retention, be intentional about it. And you've already got those kids. So
I think we need a whole nother chat about retention. So do you think that retention, then focusing on retention, is the one biggest thing that schools can do to keep their numbers up, or do you think it's more marketing, or do you think it's conversion? Where do you think if you had to
you,
rank them, which of course you wouldn't normally, but I'm
I know Nick,
asking you
the,
nonetheless.
the, the pithy answer is all of the above, right?
Of
Like
course, yeah.
right. But, I really do think you have to focus on retention first because if you're putting kids in a leaky boat, right, you're in big trouble. There's going to be retention every year. Hopefully, it's a small number. It's the nature of our work, but focus on retention first and make that as small as possible, and that makes the recruitment piece easier
Yeah.
or less hard. Let me put it that way. And then I think it's really a function of working on marketing and admissions together. They have to be talking. They have to be communicating. Even if it's just two people at your school, because you're a small school, they should be meeting frequently, weekly.
And what do they
Um,
discuss when they're meeting?
I'm sorry.
What do they discuss when they are meeting?
I think both things. I think that the admission officer should know how the marketing person is doing outreach, where they're doing outreach, what's the messaging. I think that the admission person should be sharing to the marketing person what are the most common questions that they're getting, so that the marketer can use those in the promotion, the ads. Um, what do they hear from parents? Are the parents that are being pulled in the right fit, or is our messaging a little off
Mm,
and we're not getting it? Like for example, you say you're an athletic school, but really you're not. And then these
mm,
or vice versa, or an art school and we don't have arts programs, whatever it is, you just want to make sure you're in alignment. And I find the schools that are really successful, they have those meetings, they're not siloed, and then both people take ownership of the work.
that
So
they're
the
more
admission officer feels like they have ownership over that outreach, and the marketer understands that sales process, and celebrates that admission officer is, we're that inquiry to tour numbers getting higher, that conversion number, back to the thing we were tracking earlier. So,
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I remember I went to several companies, mainly actually in the student accommodation market that
yep.
I worked quite a lot in, and they were very siloed, marketing and sales, and very salesy, and they were just blaming each other for everything, and it was quite hard work. So we ended up forming, and you said retention committee, we had growth committee.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily marketing or sales or events or whatever. It was how can we grow? And just by having and I insisted they had this every single week, and I sat in on it like a stern matron, making them talk to each other.
And how did that work?
It worked actually really well. It
See,
worked really well.
there it
And they
is.
found systems and processes for things. So things that were bugging marketing, they kind of say, oh, we quickly need a graphic and a whole campaign about this thing. And marketing are like, what? No.
Yeah.
So all this fighting. So it built relations. But I think the more you can communicate, and ideally in the same room as well, I think remote working has hurt this a little bit. Do you think?
Yeah. I um it's a little different in the school environment, at least in the US. Very few schools are doing remote. Most people are on campus.
Yeah, same here actually.
So
Okay,
yeah.
great. Okay, so that's all super exciting. So I've got some, I mean, we could talk, I think we knew this when we first started
I,
talking. We could talk like for weeks on this subject.
I know, I
Give us a
know.
TV show. That's what we need. But
That's exactly, there we go. Who would watch it though, Nicola? I don't know.
we'd have a lovely time though,
We'd have a
Greg.
fabulous time.
So I'm going to give you some quick fire questions now because
Yeah.
these are the fun ones, and they don't have to be quick and answer, but they're whatever
Okay.
you feel is useful. So number one, the one marketing buzzword that you would happily ban forever.
It's not the first thing that popped into my head. It's not a word, it's a phrase.
Okay.
We've always done it that way.
Okay.
Stop, people, stop saying that. There could be benefit to that. There could be a reason, but don't have it just be because we've done it that way. Know the data, know the background.
So add because, so you can have. We've always done it that way because
Oh,
it
okay.
works like this, or it brings a result, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, well, maybe we need to quantify. Okay. And then people are really busy. So what is your go-to productivity hack when your inbox is on fire?
It's always on fire,
I
Nicola.
know,
Here's what I
me
would say.
too.
I when I'm like really at my wit's end, my favorite hack is unsubscribe.
Okay.
Because I don't, you're probably the same. I'm signing up for newsletters. I love to read. I love to see people's content. I love to go through, but then it's unsubscribe. The other thing I've realized as I've gotten older, it's through wisdom because I'm old now, is and someone said this to me once, and it didn't register until later. Your inbox is someone else's to do.
Your inbox is someone else's to do. What do you mean by that?
So if
Is
you
someone
send
else?
me, or if you're at school and somebody sends you an email, that's a to do for them.
Oh,
So don't, and this is hard for me. So this is like therapy now, Nicola.
okay.
Don't keep your email open during the
Yeah.
day. I, I, I still struggle with this. It's open right now. You can't see it because I have Gmail, right? So it's in a tab. Close your email. Get out of your inbox. I think that's probably the other hack besides unsubscribe. But like it's if you I'll speak for myself, but I think it does translate. If I'm just focused on the inbox and doing that, I'm not getting that strategic work done that is going to move the needle further,
Mm,
faster
mm.
versus replying to you straight away.
There's a really good, and I'm trying to remember which book this was from. Someone else told me this. Is it going to make the boat go faster? And it was productivity hacks. Is reading those emails and scrolling making your boat go faster towards the goals that you want or not? But don't unsubscribe from my emails. That would be
No,
fun.
not yours, Nicola. No. Or mine. No.
Oh yeah, not ours. They're very useful. Okay, thank you. I love that. And then, what is the most overhyped social media platform for schools? Or is there one? Are they
This
all?
could be controversial. I think all
Okay,
of them. I think all of them. I think all of them because of this. Look, it's still important. And the two things I take away from here are one is focus on SEO, right? Focus on SEO. You don't have to get rid of social, but focus on SEO. The other thing is that um, be strategic about your use of social media. So the way I think about this, and this is in the book, most schools, and I think they're getting better, but most schools use social media like a scrapbook. Post a
Mm,
photo, post a photo, be strategic, meaning use it. I think social media is great for retention, but post retention posts and recruitment posts, meaning retention posts, I'm going to post to Facebook and I just want people to see the post, hopefully engage with it in some way. I don't want them to leave Facebook, but the recruitment posts, which schools really don't do, is post something on Facebook to get them to click to go off of Facebook to convert.
mhm.
Sign up for open house, open days, sign up, inquire, sign up for this, download this, do those recruitment posts. So that's what I would say.
Okay. And then would that be, or is there a different big kind of no fluff rule when it comes to school marketing? What's the biggest? We're not messing around here. This is the rule when it comes to school marketing. Is that SEO or is that something else?
Oh man,
Sorry.
Nicola, that's such a big question. I got
It's
to
a
think.
big
We
question.
should
I'll
be
take
in
a
the
push on it.
pub. This is a
This,
pub
yeah,
conversation,
we
right?
need to
With
find.
an adult
Yeah.
beverage. The no fluff rule. The one thing, it's not really the marketer. For me, it
Okay.
would be the school,
Hmm.
is um, give the person the job and let them do the job. Let them be a school marketer with resources. Don't make them three different things.
Mm,
I wish boards and heads of school, senior admin team would say, let's hire a marketer and let's let him or her just do marketing.
mm.
And most people aren't going to do that.
So you have to go and make the tea and cover the reception. Love that. Okay. So
Oh,
let's say you're walking. Sorry, were you going to say something else?
no, I just, yes, I was just going to affirmative. Yes.
Yes. So let's say you've got a new client, you're walking into their school's marketing office tomorrow. What's the
Yeah.
first thing you would look at to fix?
For us, it's the website.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I say, or tactically for us, it's, well, there's two things.
Okay.
Wait, real fast. The first is, but they're related. The first is the website and the web companies, and I know most of them that service our schools. They're lovely people. They're great, but they're more. I think they're more focused on having these beautiful things as opposed to kind of a conversion machine or a differentiator machine. Meaning, it I really dislike the trend of having above the fold having the drone video. Like, who cares? Right. So what I think is, and this goes back to the other exercise I would do with your senior admin team. Because again, marketing is not by itself, right? It's everybody.
Yeah.
So here's the exercise. Go into your senior admin team, pass out, give everybody a note card, and tell them not to put their name on this, but you're going to read it, but keep it anonymous. And then here's the question. If you, meaning person in the room, you walked into a prospective family in the local grocery store, name the grocery store, make it specific, and they asked you why the family should pick your school versus your biggest competitor, and name that competitor, don't make it anonymous, name it ABC Academy, what would you say? And have them write it down on that note card, collect those note cards, read it aloud to the group. And my guess, if you haven't done this work before, if you have 8 people in the room, you're going to have 8 different answers.
Mm,
That's a problem. I think you need to have one core answer why, and then underneath that, there might be other ways that people jump in. But what's
mhm,
our core answer? And then that core answer needs to be on the website so that when a parent comes quickly, they should be able to determine why they should pick your school versus that school that you're thinking about.
love
So
that.
that's kind of the thing I would do.
I love that. That's a great idea. What a great exercise to do. Um, and then in terms of what they should stop doing, what should they
Oh,
stop doing? So in 2026, what should they just stop doing, particularly if resources are low?
the quick answer for me is print.
Okay.
But I do say that. Let me put an asterisk there. The quick answer is this: if you are not able to measure the outcome and you don't know if it's working, stop doing it.
Okay.
It takes courage, and it's scary as heck. And we've done this. And the reason I say stop doing it is because you can always add it again, but stop doing it because our budgets are not that big to
Mm,
just, print is getting more and more expensive. It's getting more uh, people aren't looking at it anyways, and that's why I go to print. But really, if you go upstream a little bit, if you have initiatives that aren't measurable and you can't tell, stop doing them.
mm,
Deploy to something else. um, like, my quick answer for that was when Hamilton the musical was first coming around and it came to Pittsburgh, a board member wanted us to put an ad in the program, the playbill. Nicola, it's expensive.
mm,
And I'm like, we're not going to get anything. But I wasn't ready to die on that hill. So I thought, okay, we put it in there. We put in a vanity URL. We did everything we could to measure. We got zero. One person clicked on the link and didn't do anything. So then at least I used that as an opportunity to have data. So the next time something like that happened, I said, we can't do it. Unless you want to write a check, we can't do it because last time we did it, we spent X, a lot of money for us, and we had one person click on the link.
mhm. But do you think it works better with B2B, for example? So the magazine, study travel that obviously I work with, they have QR codes in their ads and various other lead magnets, and it's very, very targeted. Do you think print works better in that situation, but just not necessarily flyers and things? What when you
Yeah, and I also,
you mean?
oh, I'm sorry. I also walk back because if it's working and you're able to track it and use QR codes, oh my gosh, double down, right? But the point is, see if you can measure.
Mm,
So rather than doing, if you're not sure, and maybe this is what this makes, rather than um, just guessing, put a vanity URL, your school slash can,
yeah.
request, put a QR code, put a UTM link behind that to
Mm,
track what's happening, and then see what happens. We had, I mean, I say all this, and then we had this. Um, I call it a local rag. That's a terrible name, but we had this local little town newspaper that Nicola people read cover to cover.
oh, amazing.
And it was cheap for us to advertise, so we were in there all the time because we could track it and we knew. So that's the really the thing about it. If you don't, and that's why I was like, print. But if you don't know if it's working, you got to try to figure it out.
Yeah,
And
track.
if you can't figure it out, think about it. So,
Okay, love that. Okay, another quick fire question. What is the one lesson from sport, because I know you're a Liverpool fan, that you can apply to school marketing?
oh, that's a great question. Win the game, although they just won, but they've been on a loser streak. Uh, I think the one thing from sport is people love to be part of community.
Mm,
So particularly around, and this isn't fully baked. I'm just making this up, but I'm just thinking about it. Like your current parents are an untapped resource. They love being part of a community
mm,
and they want to, I mean, I think about my obsession with Liverpool. It makes no sense, right? I'm in the States, whatever. Um, although I did see when they came here to Pittsburgh, they played here last preseason. But anyways, um, people love to be part of a community and people want to say good things about what they follow. So as a school, your current parents are a wonderful um, untapped resource. Give them good things to say about you.
mm,
Because if you the flip is if you don't, they'll find things to say about you, which might not also be good. But this goes back to the comms person. This goes back to the um, retention.
mhm,
Share that good news, give them good things. That's where the social media piece can be beneficial, which is
mm.
ask for engagement. Get parents, come up with a I'm going down a rabbit hole now, but come up with a little parent ambassador group that's going to take the stuff that you post to Facebook and share it to their networks or
Lovely.
comment it. So stuff
Mm,
like that.
I love that. Okay. And then just coming to the end now, so just can you describe what work you do, how you help people in the no fluff fashion? How do you help schools?
Our consulting is designed, we're a digital agency, but the consulting is really designed around the fact that I've seen too many schools. Well, there's two things. One, they don't have internal capacity to do this. Two, um, they've tried like one part of it and it quote unquote doesn't work. And they're like, Google ads don't work. And I'm like, well, did you run that traffic to a landing page? Did you have lead nurturing automation after that? Did you have a clear call to action? So I think there's an overarching strategy, kind of
Mm,
methodology that you have to do. So that's how we help schools. We're a little more full service. So
nice.
drive as much traffic as we can to your web assets and offer multiple conversion points
Love
and
that.
then nurture them along. We try to, do a little more for them just to help.
Great. Okay. And then if obviously apart from buying your book, which obviously everyone should go out and buy, how else can people get in touch with you if they would like to know more about you?
Yeah, that's great. Two things. SchneiderB, so it's just my last name, first initial.com. And then I love to play on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. As long as you're a school person, I'll connect right away.
Lovely. So no bots or anything allowed, but proper human people. We love that in our
Yeah,
schools.
I
Always
love
reach out.
connecting with people as
Yeah.
long as they're not trying to sell me something all the time. I'm
Well, I
sure you
might try
get
and sell
those.
you something.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. If it's a vendor that's appropriate, I love that. But I get so many weird. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, every day, and they're just dodgy DMs, and they've not even read my profile, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not actually a school.
delete, delete,
No, well, I
ignore,
just
whatever it is.
disconnect. And what I want to do is teach them how to do social selling. That's what I want to do. I think it's not my hill to die on, as we keep saying. I'm just going to
Oh
leave them
my,
alone. They can do that themselves.
Nicola, that's great. You should have a reply that just says, "Hey, I can help you with this selling because this didn't land."
This is just terrible.
That'd be great. Okay, sorry. We're going. See, we get in trouble.
Okay,
That's bad.
I know. But thank you so much for spending time with us today. That was awesome. Loads of good bits and bobs there that everyone can take away. So you've really helped some people today. So I really appreciate it, and I look forward to another chat soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity. This was great.
You're so welcome. Take care. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Thank you very much. Not at all. You weren't to know. But I thought that went really well. I think that was lovely and chatty. And I think we need. Well, we'll talk again anyway later in the week. So let's do that. But I think we should do something on retention, maybe for my no fluff fest fringe or something like that, if you're willing.
Yeah, I am. And I told you I need to have you on to talk about sales because I want to die on that hill. Schools have to do it. So as soon as I get my pod launched, which Nicola was supposed to be September,